Why millennials act like narcissists and what Carl Jung would say about it. We often hear them called the selfie generation. They're accused of being spoiled, selfish, and obsessed with themselves. The label narcissist seems to stick to them like glue. But what if that stereotype is just scratching the surface? What if behind all the perfect social media posts and the constant hunt for likes, there's a deeper psychological struggle at play? This article isn't here to blame or judge. Instead, we're going to use Carl Jung's ideas to understand why what we call narcissism might not be a character flaw, but a survival strategy for a world that's always telling them they're not enough. In everyday talk, we think of narcissism as being super in love with yourself. But for Jung, it was more about a broken connection. A truly healthy person is okay with who they are, flaws and all. What we see as millennial narcissism is a desperate attempt to create a perfect version of themselves that depends entirely on what others think. Jung called this public image the persona. It's the mask we wear to fit in, the student, the successful employee, the perfect parent. It's a necessary part of life, but it becomes a problem when you start believing the mask is the real you. For millennials, social media is the main stage for this. Every post, story, and profile picture is part of a mask designed to get likes, comments, and followers. This persona is often a mix of ideal things, a perfect vacation, an amazing meal, easy success, and endless happiness. The truth is, no life is perfect. This is where the struggle begins. Millennials feel a huge pressure to keep this perfect persona going. Any slip-up or failure has to be hidden because it messes up their story. They end up living in a constant state of anxiety, trying to meet the expectations of their audience, not their own. This constant need for outside approval slowly eats away at their true self. On the other side of this shiny persona is the shadow, the dark hidden parts of ourselves. The shadow holds all the things we don't like about ourselves: insecurity, fear, jealousy, and anger. A healthy mind needs to face and accept this shadow, not hide from it. For millennials so focused on their persona, their shadow is often huge and scary. Social media makes it worse. When everyone else is showing off their success, the millennial shadow fills up with feelings of not being good enough and a fear of missing out. Instead of making peace with these flaws, they try even harder to bury their dark side under filters and perfect posts. When the shadow isn't dealt with, it can pop out in unhealthy ways, like sudden anger or deep jealousy. This is Jungian narcissism, not a love of self, but a total inability to accept the whole self, both the good and the bad. The millennial narcissism stereotype didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's a direct result of the unique world they grew up in. Social media is a huge part of this. These platforms aren't just for talking. They're like a modern mirror that constantly demands you look at yourself. Millennials were the first generation to grow up with the pressure to show off their lives online. Likes and comments are like instant rewards that create a cycle of addiction. The more validation their persona gets, the further they drift from their real self. Endless feeds and perfect profiles lead to constant comparisons, which feeds the shadow and makes them create an even more ideal persona. Many millennials were also raised with a focus on self-esteem, where every effort, no matter the result, deserved praise. This led to participation trophies, where everyone wins. As a result, they grew up expecting life to be fair and every effort to have a reward. Jung would see this as a failure to connect with reality. When these expectations clash with the real world, where failure and unfairness are common, they feel confused and frustrated. This is what's often called entitlement. From Jung's view, it might not be arrogance, but a lack of skills to handle life's struggles because they were never really allowed to fail. Millennials also entered a very different job market. Stable, long-term jobs are rare, replaced by the gig economy. This forces individuals to market themselves as a brand, which puts a huge focus on their public image. This makes them identify even more with their persona, because career success is tied to how well they sell themselves. In Jungian terms, this makes them even more disconnected from their authentic self and more tied to a profitable public image. Let's look at some common millennial behaviors through Jung's eyes. FOMO, fear of missing out, is a perfect example of the shadow. The fear of being irrelevant or losing to others is a part of the shadow that's been pushed down. Instead of accepting that you can't be everywhere, FOMO pushes you to check social media more, which just makes the cycle of comparison worse. The entitled attitude is often criticized because they demand quick promotions and better work-life balance. But Jung might see this as a search for a deeper purpose. Millennials saw their parents sacrifice everything for jobs they didn't enjoy. They want a life that's not just about money, but about meaning. This is a calling toward individuation, the drive to make their work and their true self line up. What looks like entitlement might just be a hidden rebellion against a life that isn't authentic. And then there are influencers. They are an extreme example of living through a persona. They build careers on creating an ideal life, becoming icons of what we should want. Following influencers shows that a whole generation is investing their energy into someone else's persona. Jung would say this is a big danger. When you admire someone else's mask, you not only lose touch with yourself, but you also give away your own psychological power, making you weaker. So if millennial narcissism is just a symptom, what's the cure? Jung's answer is the process of individuation. The first step is to accept the shadow. This means admitting you have flaws, fears, and jealousies. Instead of hiding failures on social media, millennials need to learn to talk about them and realize that vulnerability is a normal part of being human. The next step is to let go of the persona and find your true self. This takes courage. It means caring less about likes and comments and finding worth from within. It's not about deleting your social media, but changing how you use it from showing off to truly connecting. Jungian psychology teaches us that your true value isn't in how many followers you have, but in how deeply you know and accept your real self. A genuine life can't be found in social media trends. It's found in authentic activities that truly fulfill you, like learning a new skill, spending time in nature, or building real relationships. Jung would encourage millennials to find what makes their soul happy, not what looks good in a photo. In the end, the label narcissist for millennials might be too simple and unfair. From Jung's perspective, what we see isn't selfishness, but a soul fighting to find its way in a world that constantly demands perfection. The persona they build is a natural response to social pressure, while the hidden shadow is proof of their inner struggle. The challenge for this generation isn't to be better than everyone else, but to be more authentic to themselves. By bravely facing the shadow and letting go of the persona, they can begin their journey toward real individuation. What we call narcissism may in fact be a call to grow, a call to find their whole and authentic self, hiding behind the mask.